Hi all, thanks for watching this channel, ARK28. I'm just going to have a little talk today about some of the events going on in world sport. As you know, we've got lots going on with the World Cup, we've got Wimbledon, we've got lots of cricket going on, and joining me to talk a little bit about this is cricket editor and expert, John Pennington, who's also a sports aficionado. So welcome, JP.
Hello, Aaron.
How's things with you, JP?
Very well, enjoying the sport, and the weather's brightening up as well, so all good.
Fantastic. And JP, yeah, there's been a lot of sport going on, hasn't there? I was going to talk to you about, well, first of all, let's talk about Wimbledon. I think you've just been watching the ladies' final. What have you made of it?
Yeah, it was very one-sided, wasn't it? But I think it was one of the points of the tournament they played quite early on in the first set, where Kvitova managed to get out jail so many times and then win the point. At that point, I thought that's it, game over. The gap between the two players was just too much for Bouchard to overcome. Really, better player won, and she might come back stronger, and who knows, win again. But no, well-deserved win for Petra Kvitova.
No, I completely agree with you. I think there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, around Bouchard, especially the fact that she made the semis in Australia, semis in France. I think people were kind of looking. I think Andy Roddick said she'd be like a marketer's dream, wouldn't she? But I think the fact is Kvitova's been there. She's done it before. She's won it 3 years ago, and you said there was almost that difference in class today, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think if I'm right, it's sort of Bouchard's only 6th Grand Slam, so in terms of majors, she's still very, very inexperienced. So I think she'll be around for a while, and we'll grow from the experience. You say Kvitova's a former winner, so wasn't overawed at all by the occasion.
No, I completely agree, and I think JP, you had Djokovic down, didn't you, as your pre-tournament prediction? That's looking fairly strong now, isn't it?
Yes, I did. I made a number of predictions, as I know you did, and a few of my colleagues at Cricket World did right at the very start of the year, and we saw who's going to win Wimbledon, who's going to win the Grand Prix title, and all sorts. And I went for Djokovic. I didn't think Murray would retain his title. Of course, over the winter he'd had a back operation, so I didn't think this was going to be a great year for him. I think he's actually done better than I thought he would, but obviously falling a bit earlier in the week at Wimbledon. Should be an absolutely cracking final. Djokovic, Federer. I remember watching, I think it was the 2008 final between Nadal and Federer, which was an absolute classic. So fingers crossed to get somewhere close to that. But if I ever have to cheer for somebody, it will be Djokovic, because I like to stick to my predictions, however far back in the past I made them. So Djokovic for me to go on and beat Federer, but it could go either way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and a couple of interesting stats for you. I mean, for all the dominance, if you like, of Federer, well, the big four we talk about, but Federer and Djokovic, I was quite surprised to find this is only the second time these two are meeting in a Grand Slam final, which is, I think, amazing. But I think it shows you how the draws worked out. They've played a lot of times in the semi-finals, though, and the one previous time they played in the final was 7 years ago, which Federer won, but that's probably before Djokovic had really kind of kicked on to where he is today.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, isn't it? It is interesting that they've only met a couple of times. You sort of assume you've got big four and the odd interloper, but yeah, it's interesting they haven't actually met that often in the final. So plenty to look forward to there.
Absolutely, and I think one omen you're going to like, JP, seeing as you predicted Djokovic. Kvitova had only won Wimbledon once before. That was 2011, and that's the 1 year that Djokovic won it as well.
Well, everything's lining up for me and Novak. Looks good.
Exactly, it's looking good. I think another fact that we should probably talk about is, in case Federer is one of the greatest indoor players of all time, although Djokovic has won the World Tour finals the last couple of years, and I think they are forecasting a bit of rain tomorrow. So again, if it does rain, I guess, and they shut the roof, maybe that could sort of help out Federer a little bit as well. But it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they were forecasting rain for today, and it hasn't really come. So I don't know whether we should have looked too much into that. But we'll just see if that does favour or not. It's a longer game, so if it's likely to rain, I guess there's more chance of it interrupting. But we'll just sort of see what happens, really. Definitely.
Well, I guess as well, we've got a lot of football going on. Of course, we've got 2 quarter-finals today and a couple of. What have you made of it so far, JP, with all that's been going on?
I think it's been a fantastic World Cup. We've seen lots of open play. I think we've long since surpassed the number of goals that were scored in the last World Cup in South Africa. There's, apart from the Suarez biting incident, which actually passed fairly quickly because he eventually came out and apologised, but there hasn't been an awful lot of controversy. I mean, there were a few sort of tackles flying in yesterday's game, which were in Brazil and Colombia, but there wasn't too much. But I think it's been a really, really good advert for international football at the highest level. There were perhaps a few stories beforehand that it's too hot in Brazil, players are going to be sort of collapsing. We haven't had any of that. It's been a wonderful tournament, really attacking football, some brilliant goals, some brilliant goalkeeping and defending, and let's hope that it carries on in that vein and we get a grand finale.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think they were interviewing a few of the England players before the World Cup started, and they all said that if they couldn't play a World Cup in England, the next best place they'd want to play is in Brazil. And it almost reminds me a little bit in cricket in terms of the West Indies. I've been to a World Cup there and watched the World Cup, and I know it's almost like a carnival atmosphere. It's like a celebration of the game and things like that. And it very much struck me, even from watching on the TV, that's kind of how it's been. And as you say, it just seems like a very successful tournament, very exciting games as well. So it's been great, really.
Yeah, it has. I think you're spot on with the comparison there between Brazil and the West Indies, and it is maybe it's not the spiritual home of football, but it's a shrine to it. And it's almost like India in cricket. I don't know many Brazilians who don't follow a football team of some sort, and I think they're having public holidays every time Brazil are playing, so they're happy as anything. The parties are going. They're probably still partying from last night's win. So wonderful place to play football, and great that we've in our lifetime been able to see a World Cup in Brazil, because the last one was back in 1950.
No, completely. And well, JP, you say they're partying, but obviously it's a big blow with Neymar getting injured yesterday. But what do you make of that whole the tackle and obviously the news to Brazil that he's not playing now for the rest of the World Cup?
Is he out of the World Cup?
Yeah, he's out of the World Cup. Yeah.
Right, no, just because we've had a problem with our internet up here, so I'm a little bit behind everything. Right, well that's obviously a huge blow because. I thought Brazil had a tactic, particularly with James Rodriguez, basically kick lumps out of him, and Colombia maybe sort of thought, well, if you're going to give it to our number 10, we'll give it to your number 10 as well. It was a crude tackle.
Yeah.
Obviously, Brazil went up the field and nearly scored from the break, so it wasn't sort of pulled up at the time. That's unfortunately what happens when you have star players. Only sometimes they are targeted. It's a huge blow for them because this isn't a great Brazil team. They have relied on Neymar. They've relied on getting ahead in games, and I don't think they've been behind yet. And I'm not sure if they're capable of coming from behind and winning games. And without Neymar, that just adds huge question marks, because Fred did very little in yesterday's game. Holt was he had chances, but he didn't really take them. So it leaves a massive hole for them to fill against the Germans. So I'm now thinking they're probably going to win that one now.
No, I think you're quite right. I think especially now, it looked like they've been hanging on a little bit, didn't it, Brazil, from what I've seen. And as you say, they're relying a lot on Neymar and kind of just squeaking through in games. And you wonder, I mean, the only thing I'll say is, I mean, we look at it in cricket sometimes, don't we, when teams just rise together, gel together. It'll be interesting to see which way Brazil go, doesn't it? Do they gel it?
Yeah, and don't forget, not only are they going to be missing Neymar, they're going to be missing Thiago Silva. He's suspended, and he played a vital role yesterday against Colombia, just keeping it tight to the back. So Germany can get an early goal, then I think it will be curtains for Brazil. I don't think they can come from behind, because both against Chile and Colombia they were hanging on a bit at the end. Well, Chile went to penalties, but they could have lost that game in extra time when Chile hit the bar. So I think that it will be a huge, obviously, test of character if they can come together. But I think they'll miss Neymar, they'll miss Silva, and that might be the end of the road, which I know isn't going to make me very popular with any Brazilian viewers, I'm afraid.
Completely. JP, I know we've covered a few sports here. I know basketball's not necessarily a sport, but just to give for guys that are watching, the whole NBA free agent thing's really sort of, I know, going viral almost in America. I know a few years ago LeBron James was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's like his home state, and obviously I think in the NBA terms you judge on how many NBA championships you win at the end of the day. And he'd come to a few semi-finals, and I think he finally decided that he had to go to a bigger club, if you like. He had to go to a club where there was more opportunity. I think what cost him a lot of fans was he did this big 1 hour special on ESPN called The Decision. It was almost like a reality TV show. And the whole thing was built around his suspense and his question marks. Will he stay at Cleveland? Will he go to New York? Will he go to Miami? And in the end he chose Miami, and it's almost made Miami Heat one of the most unpopular teams in the NBA. And I think the Cleveland CEO even wrote a letter literally bashing LeBron James about his lack of loyalty, how he's let the fans down, because I think they actually sold some of their players just so that they could actually afford to keep LeBron. So now he's opted out of his Miami Heat contract with 2 years left on it. He's a free agent, and they actually reckon he's going to go back to Miami from what I'm reading. And well, they're the favourites to keep him, but it's literally so he can renegotiate. Now I know you're not a big basketball, I just thought it was an interesting point of discussion really, because we think about cricket and IPL, and obviously it's different because in cricket it's mainly still an international sport, but it just shows, doesn't it, how money's taking such a big part in sport, really, doesn't it? It's interesting to sort of take note that someone would want to leave their contract to potentially renegotiate a higher contract with the same team.
It does, and I think obviously this is being played out very much in the public eye. I'm sure this is nothing that doesn't go on in big business. I mean, I've done work with recruitment companies, and they say, look, you can do this. So this isn't anything new. It's just obviously he's the world's greatest basketball, one of the world's most famous basketball players. It's very public. So I think that's where it sort of differs, and yeah, it does show how important money is, and how these things can, as I say, sort of be played out in the public glare. But yeah, I mean, players move because they want to earn more money, or they want to get more success. I mean, with watching the Formula One earlier, and there is talk that Fernando Alonso might leave Ferrari. Maybe not so much to earn more money, but because he wants to win more titles. We saw Lewis Hamilton leave McLaren, who he'd raced with for all his career, but he wanted to go and win more titles. So players are always looking, because you still have a fairly short career as an international or indeed a national sportsman. So whether you try and earn more money out of that, or you want to win more titles on the back of which you get more money. So money, at the end of the day, money does make the world go round. Whether we think that's a romantic view or not, they are the facts. So it's an interesting one. It certainly is.
It is, and I think you make a very good point there. I think from just me looking as an outsider, obviously I'm here, and basketball's just something that you see from time to time. But from what I do know, I think you do make a good point there. As well as money, I think for these guys, these champions, a lot of it comes down to titles and winning, really. And I think with LeBron last time, from what I can understand, it wasn't so much the fact that he decided to leave Cleveland, which is where he'd been all his life. I think it was more the fact, I think people respected the fact that, he'd got Cleveland as far as they could go with him there. They'd come to a few semis and they'd done well. He wanted to win some titles, but maybe it's the fact that he did that 1 hour special, doing that ESPN. I think it's like anything, it's the way you do something rather than what you do, maybe doing,
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yes, I'm reading quite a lot about Kevin Peterson recently, and he's sort of sometimes come out and done videos and you think, well, why did he do that? So yeah, yes, that's perhaps the nub of it, really, isn't it? If you sort of just quietly get on with it and say, this is what I've done and that's it, fine. But if you're going to go and do this hour-long programme, I think you're spot on there to pick up on that.
I think that's a very good comparison, actually, because I think it was during the Olympics, wasn't it, 2012?
Super Sunday, so we're all sort of excited for Super Sunday. Then, Peterson's got video out what the timing was, ill-conceived at best. Yeah,
I remember that very clearly. Everyone was on a high, the whole country. You had Mo Farah doing well, and everyone was doing very well, and it was that feel-good factor. And then you had that.
Then I had to do some work.
But well, in cricketing terms, I think there's been a little bit on. Obviously, it's been, I wouldn't say under the radar completely, but obviously with the World Cup and everything like that. But obviously, we had that recent series with England, Sri Lanka, and we've got England, India coming up, haven't we, as well on Wednesday? I think it is, JP, the first.
Sorry?
Is the first test on Wednesday? Is it kick off? England?
Yeah, it gets underway Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're not too far from us up here in the Midlands, Trent Bridge. So it should be an interesting one. Also, a lot of talk about Alistair Cook. He's can't buy a run, can't buy a win. So he's under huge pressure. We've got the young players who've come in: Sam Robson, Gary Ballance, Noah Annibal coming in, scored hundreds. Ben Stokes is back. So the youngsters are coming in and doing a good job. But it's up to the likes of Alistair Cook and Ian Bell, for example, to actually prove their worth. We know they're world-class cricketers, but it's sort of time for them to step up against India, who are a good side. I don't think they're as strong as the last Indian side that came over, because they too are, not carrying is the wrong word, but they've got a lot of inexperienced players away from India, like Tejshwar Pujara, Virat Kohli, Vijay Shikhar, absolute world-class players, no doubt about it, but they haven't played much in English conditions in 5-day cricket, so it's going to be really fascinating to see which way it goes. I think it could actually be quite close, but I do think England will just about have the edge. I don't think it's a great surprise to say the England bowling attack is but pace bowling attack is much better than India's, and that, of course, as we know, you've got to take 20 wickets to win a test match, so I think they'll manage that more times than India will. No,
I completely agree. I do give England a slight edge. I think the biggest concern for India is going to be the bowling, how they're going to get 20 wickets, and also, as you do mention with the batting, I mean, guys like Virat Kohli, Pujara, they've done really well in recent times, but what we almost take for granted is it's been quite a quick turnaround for Indian cricket, hasn't it? I mean, I think the last time India were here in that ill-fated tour for them. Guys like Collie hadn't even made the test team yet. Well, I think he had played some tests in the West Indies, but he didn't make the starting 11. So there is quite a lot of inexperience in that